Margaret Carhirlig, and I want to welcome the Minister to the House and indeed welcome the establishment of his department, which I think will give us a chance to focus on the issues of further education and higher education. And I do very much want to welcome the Minister's opening remarks, because I think he touched on a number of issues. The stigmatisation of young people, which I think is unfortunate, the issue of sexual violence within third level institutions, which is obviously something he's quite passionate about tackling. And obviously we want to discuss about the funding of further education, of third level education, the Cassell's report, which you referenced, Minister. I know the previous Minister who held responsibility for your area ruled out the student loan contribution scheme in the previous government, which I think was a positive move. I want to touch on the area that you have outlined from the beginning of your tenure, which is the issue of literacy and numeracy among our adult population. And it is something that I feel quite passionately about, because I think, like many areas of Irish public policy, not enough people talk about it. And there's a huge element of stigma attached to it, just like most things that are hard to grapple with. There's an element of stigma. There is even an element of shame attached to it. Now, 17.9% of Irish adults are functionally illiterate. Now, functional illiteracy means that you couldn't necessarily read an instruction manual, an application form, the back of a medicine bottle. It doesn't mean you're illiterate. It doesn't mean you can't read or write your own name. But it doesn't mean that you can't fully participate in our society. 70.9% is 1 in 6. And many people either don't believe that figure or are absolutely astounded by it. But it is true, and it actually has improved. It was a number of years ago at 23%, or calculated at 23%. And can you just imagine how you could live your life or negotiate yourself through the day without the capacity to have that level of literacy that you'd need? Now, a number of things that we proposed in the last Oireachtas was a plain language bill, Minister, which was to make sure that all public documents can actually be accessible. And more often than not, those who need public documents are those, the most, in order to survive, are those with lower literacy standards. So it shouldn't be so difficult to read a public document. It shouldn't be like opening up an encyclopedia. It should be something that is accessible, easy to read, easy to understand. I sometimes wonder if public documents are almost deliberately put together in order to confuse, because if this is what is between you and accessing your rights or payments or benefits, often it can be one step too many for people. And the second positive policy proposal we had was to establish an agency that might be called Literacy Ireland, because as NALA have said to us, the National Adult Literacy Agency, there are about 8 different governmental departments that deal with literacy or deal with elements of literacy. And so when you have that kind of approach to literacy, be it from the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Jobs, the Department of Education, obviously, the Department of Children, the Department of Health, you do not have one overall strategy that can actually affect change. Now, you have 1 in 3 children that leave disadvantaged schools with basic reading difficulties. You have situations in the States where private prison operators will actually calculate how many prison cells they're going to need in 15 years' time by looking at the literacy rates of 10-year-olds. And in this country, and in most developed countries, the difference between in the oral language capacity of a 3-year-old from a disadvantaged family versus a 3-year-old from an advantaged family is as much as 66%. 400 words in the oral language capacity versus 1,200 words. And that is obviously going to reflect itself in the adult experience. So, Minister, I've only got a number of minutes to raise these issues with you, but I think it could be really, really powerful if people from government and opposition could actually achieve something on the literacy scale together. And if we were to establish an agency like Literacy Ireland, or to place a governmental priority on an issue like literacy, imagine how many people it would free. Imagine how many people it would liberate. To say, I actually have a literacy issue. It's something that I'm grappling with all my life, and now I have a door that's open to me, and I can actually fully participate in our society, in our economy, in my own family, in our democracy. Hugely, hugely powerful. So I think, Minister, I very much appreciate that that was one of the first statements you made as Minister, one of the first groups that you met were those working in this area. And if you are genuine about working with opposition, about having positive policy proposals to tackle this issue, well then I think that there's something really powerful that this Oireachtas could achieve.
Thank you, Deputy. I now